Hello, everyone. Welcome to Ask the Expert, a digital series designed to give you information about finance as well as business. And today I'm joined by our wonderful co host, the CEO of the D Free Financial Freedom Movement, Dr. DeForest B. Soares Jr. Hello, Dr. Soares.
Hello, Brittany Smallwood. Always a pleasure to see you and hear you and see what you're up to. You always have very exciting guests, and today is no different. I just stopped by to say hello and to greet our audience. We have so many people that tune in regularly. I could call names, but it would take too long. But thank you for your interest. Thank you for your support. Thank you for following Ask the Expert. And I would encourage all of you to do two things. Number one, go to the website, dfree.com. You can use our free calculators to determine interest rates and loan payments and investment strategies. You can see older episodes of our Ask the Expert webinar series. You can link to our foundation and actually go through our 12 steps to financial freedom. It's a free course. It's available right now. And you can learn about investing in real estate. So go to dfree.com and sign up for our mailing list if you're not on our mailing list, and just get involved in the movement. Also, what I'd like you to do is on the website, there is an opportunity to get help. One of the reasons we have this specific series, Ask the Expert, is because many of us accept advice from people who are not qualified to give it. And if you're interested in investing, if you never had a budget or don't know how to form one, if you're drowning in debt, if you have student loans and you're trying to figure out what to do, doesn't matter what your financial question is. We have experts. We have licensed professionals uh, who have who have been qualified and certified to help you with your finances. So you can go to dfree.com/get help and then tell us what kind of help it is you're looking for. We will connect you with the professional who is qualified to help you think through, work through, and develop a strategy around your specific situation. So we don't just preach to you and motivate you. We link you real time with real help. And I'm grateful to all of the team at D Free and the D Free Foundation that make sure all of these resources are available. So, Brittany, today you'll be talking to someone who has advice for the millions of people that are trying to think through their personal strategies and deal with the opportunities or the challenges and barriers that they face in the workplace. And I'm so happy to have your guest today. You'll introduce her, and I'm sure after hearing the two of you speak, somebody's going to want help. And again, go to the website, dfree.com, get help, and we'll make sure you get the help that you need. So I'll be listening and watching from the background. I'm now turning this over to the professional, Brittany Smallwood, who is our illustrious host and who's going to introduce our guest. So thank you.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Soares, for joining us today. So our guest today, her name is Dr. Michelle Williams. She's an assistant professor of management and entrepreneurship at the University of Iowa, and she is also a negotiation expert. I am so excited to have her with us today. You will not see her on camera, but she is here. She is live. She is joining us by phone. She's such a busy woman, so she had to join us by phone today. But I want you to know, if you have any questions for anyone who's watching us, please feel free to put it in the chat for us when we can ask Michelle in real time, whatever your question is, and just feel free to ask. Michelle, I'm so excited to have you, Dr. Williams, rather, join. Welcome. Hello,
Thank
Dr.
you so much. And I have been promoted to associate professor, so
Very
really
nice.
excited.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Always good to have tenure.
Yes, that's a huge thing. And I know that there was, I'm sure, a lot of negotiation that went along with that too.
Oh,
So
definitely.
that's amazing. That is so amazing. And I love just reading about all of your work. You really have just done so much. And I'm so excited to talk to you because one of the things that you talk about is that the importance of negotiating, because it helps you really find ways to negotiate not only for salary, but negotiate for your time, which we all need more of, and
Yes.
your sanity. And it's like, yes. So I'm
Yeah,
so
so I I always think about those micro negotiations. And everyone knows you're negotiating when you're asking for salary or asking for promotion. But when you're when you're trying to say no to extra work, to spend time with your family, to go to the gym, you don't think of those as a negotiation. And because you often don't plan for them. You don't plan for, like, what's your goal? What are you aspiring to? What would be a win-win for the other side? And when you approach that more strategically, you can really improve your life, not just for your career success, but also for your well-being.
I love that. So, what are some top negotiation tips? I know you're an expert not only in negotiation but also in entrepreneurship. So, if can you give us the top tips for negotiation, and if there are different nuances for an entrepreneur versus an employee, please feel free to let us know.
That is great. So, my top tip is set your aspirations high. One of the key differences they find between successful and less successful negotiators is those aspirations. So doing your research to know really what is that salary target? Can you say no to this extra work? And how would you do that? Whatever those kind of knowing what your goals are. So I guess I would dial it back to know what your goals are and then set your aspirations high so that the things you are saying yes to and the things you are negotiating for um, are on target with your goals. And one of the gender differences they find in negotiation, is not what you're doing in the conversation, but where your aspirations are. So if you think about going for a job, no one's going to offer you more than what you ask for. And if you give them a range, for instance, anywhere between 50 and 60K, they're going to give you 50, right? Because why would they pay you more than you are willing to accept? And so, really doing the homework, talking to people who look like you and people who don't look like you to find out what that real pay structure is. If you're moving to another industry, I know a lot of people during the pandemic moved to tech, but
Mhm.
they were basing their salary requests on what they were doing maybe in the public sector or what they were doing as a teacher, right? And so it might be better than what you made in those other sectors, but this you should be paid for the work you're doing in the industry you're in. So making sure those aspirations are high. And I really think of these as 4 A's. So one is your aspirations, two is your analysis, right? So talk to people, use both conversations and things like Glassdoor, any kind of information you have maybe from as an alumni of your university, your career services. So use that information. Also, if it's not career, figuring out what that other side wants. So you're going to analyze, you're going to ask questions. And the third one is ask questions. So not only do you have to ask to get, right? You can't just wait for people to recognize your good work and give you a promotion. You've got to ask for it. You have to ask for, what do I need to do to be ready for this promotion? You have to ask for, what are they really looking for? What is your boss trying to achieve? Because sometimes people will ask you just everything that comes across their desk. Oh, can you go talk to this group? Can you talk to these high school groups? Can you do this interview? Whatever they might come up. Oh, can you be on this committee? But then if you sit down and you say, you asked me to do these 10 things, all of which take time. What is your priority? I could probably fit two more if I still want to make my work targets. Which two are your priority? And they just never have thought about it. They just, so they're asking you things, and when you come to them, it's either, can I, which two are most important to you, and then how can we write these extra things? Because as a woman or as a person of color, you may be asked to do a lot of things related to diversity in your organization. How can we write these into my metrics for promotion? Right? I don't want these to be non-promotable yeses.
That's a
You're
good one.
exactly, and and your boss isn't really even thinking that way, and it's not that they're trying to sabotage your career or anything, it's never come up. So if you don't bring up the conversation, if you don't start to get them thinking differently, like, yeah, our organization needs people who will do this, that's gotta be part of what you're being promoted for and the leadership that you're being seen for. And
That
then
Yeah.
the last A is assert. So their aspirations, aspire, analyze, ask, and assert. So being assertive, and I know um, you have a broad audience, but if some of them are women of color, there's always that fine line between being assertive and being an angry Black woman, right? So you're working against a stereotype. And if you're, for instance, an Asian woman, you're working against that stereotype of being very compliant. Right. And for people to go like, wait a minute, what you're asking for something? And so this assertiveness, one of the things that, one of the reasons people don't ask, both people of color in general and women, is because you don't want to get that backlash, right? You don't want to get that, who do you think you are? Right?
Mhm.
Like you should be grateful to just be here at the table. And one of the things they found in research is you can be assertive non-verbally, like using a strong voice, um, sitting, not kind of making yourself small when you're sitting and crossing your legs and crossing everything in, but just sitting in a comfortable stance that that shows your power, and also um, not hesitating or having your voice go up at the end when you ask for something, right? If you're asking for 100K, it shouldn't be like, well, what is your salary you want? Well, 100K, right? Or 100K, right? So practice that in the mirror, practice it with your friends. The first time those numbers come out of your mouth should not be the um, in the salary conversation with
Mm.
your with the recruiter. You have to get
Good.
really comfortable with those. And then if we go back to the analysis part, the more analysis you've done, right, the more you know that that is a reasonable salary for that job, the more confident you feel. So your confidence can come from the knowledge and the work you've put in beforehand. And I think that that's really important for people who are in a corporate situation, but it's also important for entrepreneurs. And I can give you an example of
Yeah.
this. There was a startup, and they were looking to get a manufacturer to make some prototypes for them. And the manufacturer, basically said, you write the contract, give me what you think, I deserve. Now the startup had very little money, right? So in their mind, the only thing they could give was equity. But this is like the really starting of your company. So that equity could be worth millions and millions of dollars. They could give up 10 or 50, right? They're thinking it's not worth anything. Well, no,
Mhm.
it's not necessarily worth anything now. But if someone says to you, you write the contract, you tell me what you think it's worth, it's because they know you don't know. Right? They
Mhm.
know you're going to give away more than it's worth. So, as a part of the team uh, the mentorship team for this company, we said, find out how much
Uh-oh.
pay them. You
Oh,
don't want, this isn't worth equity in your
Mhm.
company. And so they gave the company a price, and then they said, well, how much does it really cost them to manufacture it? How much time does it cost? And they went on, they said, okay, can you give us a tour of the facility? And then they said to the people, well, can you show us how this manufacturing process works? And they had told the startup that it would take hours to set up the the equipment to produce this product. And when they were on the tour, he flipped a few switches and set it up in 10 minutes. So they knew then they didn't have to pay for an hour. They needed to pay for 10 minutes. And so asking questions, being curious, saying, kind of why, how does this work? It's called the help me strategy. And it is not aggressive, but it is a distributive tactic, because once you say, help me understand why, or why won't this work, the information they give you helps you craft a more accurate offer.
That's so good. So what did you call it? The help me strategy?
Help me strategy. So you're asking them, help me understand why, you know, why this won't work, or why this is the amount you're offering, or what's what do you want me to do? And this works for entrepreneurs. It also works for individuals just in a corporate job. Like if somebody says, oh, can you moderate this panel? It's just 45 minutes, right?
Mhm.
I would say yes, right? I have 45 minutes. I could, everybody has 45 minutes. But if then you ask them, well, what do you really need me to do? Then they're telling you, oh, well, there's a meeting that's about an hour long to come up with the questions. And then there's a meeting to refine the question, that's an hour. And then there's a meeting with the person that you're interviewing. And then there's the panel, right? So that turns into a half a day.
Right.
Right? So that's, if you're a consultant, that's $5,000 worth of your time when what they asked and what they're thinking is what you're thinking, what you've planned for is 45 minutes. And so asking some additional questions lets you know, because that would take that request from an easy yes to a hard no, right? It just having a little more information lets you know, can I do this? Can I not? And so in all aspects of your life, if you're thinking you're working with a community group and they ask you to do something, or at your church, a lot of times the ask seems really small and you'd feel ridiculous saying no to it. But if you ask more questions and find out what it really entails, right? Can you do this for 15 minutes? But oh no, you have to go grocery shopping and buy all this stuff, and then you have to talk to this person, and then you have to do that. It's like, no, well, I can't do it, but can you recommend something else? When someone asks you, it's not that you don't want to help them, but they're asking you because you always say yes. What
Mhm.
you want to be is not the person who always says yes, but the person who helps them solve their problem. So instead of saying yes, like say that's really important. Let's sit down and have coffee and see how we can get you the help you need for that. Right? Because there might be people who have more time. There might be people who would love that opportunity. They've never had the opportunity to interact with these high level people. And that would be and so you're saying no, but solving the problem in a different way creates value for a lot of people.
That's so good. That's so good. I love everything you've shared so far. So thank you. So to anyone who's watching, if you have any questions for us, please feel free to put them in the chat and we will ask Dr. Williams while she is here live with us. Dr. Williams, what I want to ask you next is how can people, or how have you seen, or how has the research shown that people have perhaps sabotaged their negotiation deals?
So, setting your aspirations too low is one way they sabotage it. Also, the biggest way I would say people sabotage their negotiations is by not preparing. Your negotiation is really won or lost in the preparation, and this is not and this. The sabotage is not conscious, right? If someone asks you something, so for instance, I was in my car driving, I think, to pick up my kids, and a dean from another school called and said, "Oh, we'd really like to have you come out for a job talk. We're really interested in you," right?
Mhm.
Driving in the car on the way to pick up your kids, you have not thought about it. You have no idea what you're at. Like, it's just out of context. And so what I said was, this is not a good time. Can we set up a time to meet? Because I had time to plan. And so many people sabotage themselves by either saying yes automatically or by not setting a specific time to have the discussion, right? You don't have, because someone else has brought up the topic, you don't have to have that discussion right now. You have the right and the obligation to yourself to think about it, right? And so and I would call it, um, it's sabotage that's not, it's because we're nice, right? It's because we're trying to be nice and kind and responsive. And so you can be nice and kind and responsive, but you can put in that time to pause and think. If you're in the office and it's your boss or someone who has a lot of power and you're not feeling comfortable, saying, "Let's talk about that tomorrow."
Mhm.
Just say, "Love to talk about it. I just have to hit the men's room or the ladies' room first," right? And so stay in there, look up information on your phone, plan, get your head in the right place, and then have that conversation. You can always go to the bathroom. So just the part of it, I think, is that mindset that you have the obligation to yourself and you have the right to think before you respond.
I like that. What you're really sharing with us today is, as you mentioned just a few minutes ago, the true importance is in the research, really kind of taking a snapshot of your whole life, really assessing what's important to you across the board, researching not only say if you're an entrepreneur, the person that you're trying to connect with to do a deal, if you're an employee, researching the employer and understanding the landscape within that industry and what you really bring to the table, but also what they bring to the table and what you can get out of it. That's so good. And then
Exactly.
the nonverbal cues. Is there power in terms of nonverbal cues in just silence for the individual when they're in a negotiation?
Incredible power in silence because it shows your confidence. So once you make an offer, you need to be silent. So that's a third way that people self-sabotage, right? They ask for something. This is the salary I want, or no, I can't do this. And then instead of sitting in silence and waiting for the other person to respond, they just chat away. Well, if that's not good, I could really take this, or maybe I could, work, or maybe I could do it on the weekend and not do it now. They just fill in. And what that does, two things. One, it makes you look less confident because it is coming from a lack of confidence in what you've actually stated as what your ask is. And two, you're actually negotiating against yourself, right? Because they haven't given you a counter offer. They haven't said no, they haven't said yes, they haven't said anything. And if you're giving another alternative before they've come back, you're negotiating with yourself. And that's really I think one way that people sabotage themselves, and they not only do it in that situation when they're talking to someone, you might do it at home before you go in, right? Oh, I really want to ask for a raise. It's inflation. I've been doing hard work. I really, I closed that new project. Oh, but the company's not doing so well. Maybe I shouldn't ask now. You've never asked the question. You've talked yourself out of it before you even got to the office. And so those are two ways people kind of negotiate against themselves.
That's phenomenal. And it sounds like I know for myself, being comfortable. Sometimes I have to tell myself, be comfortable with the silence when you're in
Yes.
another room with
Yes.
someone. That's so good. People can practice that at home. That's so good. What are some things that people can negotiate if it's an employee going with an employer? What are some things that they can negotiate outside of salary?
So that is such an important question. Um, you should never think of a, a new job negotiation as salary. Think about it as compensation. So, what are all the things that you might ask for? You might ask for reimbursement for an advanced degree, right? Companies do that. You might ask for a low interest mortgage. Companies sometimes do that. You might ask for moving expenses. You might ask for a bonus. One of the things that people rarely ask for that's important, if they say they're bringing you in at a lower salary or a lower like tier in public government jobs or like tiers and levels, you can ask, can what I'd like, and this works for more private organizations, I'd like to be reviewed for promotion twice a year. My performance review to be after 6 months instead of after a year. So
Mm.
you can get that salary bump if they're not confident, where you think you should be. Say, give me 6 months. I'll show you how I can transfer the skills from another industry. I'm confident I can do it. So let's do it after 6 months. I remember talking to someone who was talking to a male colleague, and her salary was much higher than hers. And she's like, "Well, what did you do?" And she said, "Well, I asked for those performance evaluations every 6 months." So he was getting a bump every 6 months, and she was getting a bump every year.
Mm.
Over time, that really adds up.
Yes, yes. That's so good. That's so good. Are there any other tips for entrepreneurs? Because we have a lot of entrepreneurs who are in our audience. If they're going out trying to close a deal, what are some things that they can do to really help them close it?
So there's kind of two things that I think of in terms of entrepreneurship.
Mhm.
One is that if you are a new entrepreneur and you're in a service-based business, such as consulting or something like that, or coaching, what happens is when you start that business, you feel like you're so desperate for work that you say yes to everyone. You say yes to your ideal client, and you say yes to people who don't really fit within that realm or who don't. And what happens when you say yes to the people who don't fit well? It often takes a lot of additional time and energy. So you're getting paid much less because you have to put all this extra effort. So over time figure out what do you say yes to and what do you say no to. So that's more at the beginning client end. Like, so interview your clients, make them apply. Don't just accept everyone. Um, because the money isn't the same. If you coach, for instance, in resumes, and so you do resumes and job coaching, and you have clients who um, say you do high level, you do executive coaching, people who want a VP or higher job, right? If you then start taking clients who are right out of college, very different market. They need a lot of different services that may not be what it is you want to apply, and they might need a lot of additional follow up. They might be emailing you all the time, or doing things that we because of the extra time reduce the amount you're getting paid per hour and
Hmm.
distract you from getting the clients you want. The second thing that happens in like a consulting business, or if you're a tech consultant, you do like web design or something like that, is not having a clear contract, and so there's scope creep. So people say, "Oh, can you,
Okay.
oh, but can you change the color of it?" Right? So the client needs to know. I will give you 3 designs. You
Hmm.
will pick one, and I'll do one revision on that design. Right? If you don't have that written out, they're going to keep coming back. Oh, can you tweak this? Can you change this? And then after that, after I've done those 2 designs, and you can either pick one or you can pay me to create other designs, so that you're constantly being paid for your work. It's not a scope creep. And for something like anything like tech or web design, you are working with clients who don't understand the process. They don't understand um, how costly it is to do iterations, and they don't understand that things don't they're not just that it's an iterative process. And so if they really want you to hold their hands and iterate a million times, you know that's a $20,000 job. If they want the $2,000 website, this is what it includes, right? If you want everything, and so you have to have those different prices, and you have to really limit what you have to match what you're doing to the pay you're asking, and have, when they ask for something outside of the scope, have some prices. Yes, and even if you don't have the price right away, just say yes, but that will be additional, and then go figure out how many hours that would be, and you know things like that. And those are the 2 things that make people end up at the end of the day not making the money they think they're making, because they're spending too much time.
Interesting. This is so good because what I also hear you saying is that people need to value themselves because no one else is
Yes.
going to do it for you.
And they often don't understand what it takes. They don't understand the intricacies of what you're doing. So
Mhm.
they're thinking you can just go do this in 5 minutes, and it might be something that's going to take you 5 hours. And we tend to be nice. We're so happy to have this client. We want to make them happy, and we just say yes, and we eat the cost of charging $2,000, but giving them a $20,000 website.
That is so good. All of this was so good. I know we're close to time. So, once again, I keep going back and forth looking to see if anyone has any questions. So, if anyone does, please let us know. Um, I just wanted to know when people go in and say, like you said, like the salary ranges or their expectations. You said make sure you have your expectations high, but also is being flexible a good part of it as well?
You want to be flexible because you don't know. So say you're asking for a salary of 100K,
Hmm.
right? What you really want is compensation of 100K. So if they give you 70K, but they pay for your MBA, which is worth 50K, you're getting even more, right? Um, if they give you additional vacation time, right? And you have to put a monetary value on some other things that are important to you. So if you want hybrid work, how much are you willing to take $10,000 less if you can do hybrid work, so you're there when your kids get home from school? So there are things that putting a value on matters. And the thing that I didn't mention that's so important is have your reservation point, which is the worst deal you're willing to accept. know what that is, because otherwise we get caught up in the negotiation and we just want to make a deal. And then we walk away and go like, wow, that other job would have been way better. It was less commuting time. I don't know why I accepted this. And you don't want to have that remorse.
That was so good. That was so good. Dr. Williams, I can't tell you enough. Thank you so, so much. This was beautiful. And I really hope that everyone who listened got an opportunity to really get what they need. I checked, I didn't see any questions come in, but before we close, is there anything that I have not asked you that you would like to add?
I just want to let people know that I am on LinkedIn. They're welcome to contact me there. And if they go to my website, drmichellewilliams.com, which is just my name.com, I have some free resources. So I have top 10 tips for salary negotiation, the 4 A's, and they're welcome to download those and use them in their next negotiation.
Love that. Thank you so much. And congratulations again on tenure.
You're welcome. Thank you so much, Brittany.
Thank you. All right. Have a
Bye
great
bye.
day,
You
everyone.
too. Bye bye.